can have a goal or a desire or a plan, but it requires some work.
All right. What's up, everybody? It's so good to see all of you again. Back on here on social media, on my YouTube page. We have been digging deep and working it through. When I tell y'all this has been absolutely incredible, I've had so many amazing people on the line with me, so many amazing conversations. I have grown tremendously. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have been bringing people that will offer information that will help not just meet the needs that you have, but answering the questions that I believe people are asking. And so as you have questions, feel free to email me, hit me on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. And then I can also connect you with the people, the guests that I have had on. And so today I've got a young lady who's on. This is actually part 2 of our conversation, queuing. So welcome back. Glad to have you on.
Thank you. I'm so glad we get to do part 2.
Yeah, it's been incredible. Not yesterday, but the other day when we did the video, man, we had so much more that we wanted to talk about, and we were trying to figure out how to figure it out and all that kind of good jazz. And so I'm glad we were able to make this happen.
Me too.
Absolutely. So y'all, we've been talking about the book Temporary Assignments. Listen, if you don't know what temporary assignments is, you might be sleeping under a rock. I'm joking with facts. This book, Temporary Assignments, has been it's been a labor of love. The feedback that folks have been offering has been absolutely incredible. And so, Q, and we want to jump right in really fast. Are you there with me? All right, there she is.
Yes,
All right, awesome. So queuing really quickly, this is part 2 of our conversation, and someone may not immediately see part 1. They may jump right into part 2 for some reason, and then we'll have to go back and watch part 1. So tell us your story a little bit. Tell us why you are being interviewed today around this notion of change and transition and reinvention.
Well, over the past 2 summers, I've lost over 100 pounds naturally, or I like to say supernaturally, as I've learned to apply faith for fitness and get wisdom for weight loss.
That's incredible. 100 pounds, huh?
Yeah, 102, as a matter of fact.
Oh, excuse me. 102. So literally, that's a whole person. You've literally lost a whole person. And so I understand through this journey that oftentimes there's a catalyst to all of this, and we'll deal with that in just a moment. But I think there can be some great value in just rehashing a couple of things that we talked about in part 1 of this conversation. That you lost 100 pounds, physically, but also what was going on emotionally and spiritually and mentally in your life at the time?
I was going through a series of just emotionally traumatic transitions. And during that whole whirlwind, I was out on a walk one day and I was thinking, what can I do? What do I need to do? Something has got to give. And the only thing I felt like I could control in that moment was my relationship with my own self. And it kind of started with the way that I treated myself, the way I talked to myself. And I decided that I needed to cultivate compassion for myself. That was my number one thing to jump it off.
Yeah, that's incredible, because even the other day you said, and I love this quote, change the relationship that you have with yourself. And you said something that is so powerful and a major takeaway for so many people. You said literally, you would never talk to somebody else that way. Why are you talking to yourself that way?
Right.
Yeah, that's really
right. Cool. Let's see. Yeah. Some of the ways that we talk to ourselves is almost like you're talking to somebody that you hate. But when you ask the average person, do you love yourself? They would probably say yes. Yes, I love myself. But it's not reflected in the mercy that we extend towards ourselves and the patience that we have towards ourselves, the way that we talk to ourselves. I definitely was in that boat.
Yeah, that's really good. So I heard you say earlier, what's the phrase you said? You said faith for fitness and wisdom for weight loss. Is that what I heard you say earlier?
Yes,
So,
applying faith and fitness and getting wisdom for weight loss.
so tell me what all of that means. That sounds really, really heavy. Tell me what that looks like. And what it means.
For me, what that looks like is, for the believer, it is seeing what does the Word of God have to say about weight loss, and then applying that to your fitness endeavors. Because what I found was knowing what to do was not enough for me. It was not keeping me on the journey. I've tried to lose weight many times, and I would lose some and then gain even more back. So I knew there needed to be something deeper for me. And so when I discovered things in the Word, because I was seeking God to open my eyes in that area, things in the Word like 1 Corinthians 9:27 that says, I discipline my body like an athlete,
Wow.
training it to do what it should. So I saw that with a different set of eyes, the whole him who has ears to hear, let him hear. It was like I was hearing that for the first time and thinking, okay, I discipline myself like an athlete. So I thought about, well, what does an athlete do? Athletes don't diet and work out. I mean, they train, like that's their lifestyle. It's a difference between someone who is a farmer and someone who's growing tomatoes on the side of the house. The tomatoes grow, and if they don't grow, it's cool either way, if you're just doing it on the side of your house. But if that is your livelihood, if your family is dependent on that crop coming in, then you're going to see the whole process of how you treat those seeds and how you tend to that garden differently. So I just began to look in the Word to try to see how can I apply this to my everyday life. And then that would strengthen and encourage me when I did not want to do anything, like when motivation ran out, because motivation doesn't really last. It's kind of like a mist. It's there and then it's not. So I needed something to keep me going, and I found that in the Word.
Wow. So let me do this. Let me ask it this way and see how we can kind of address this way. So I'm thinking about myself 6 years ago. Okay, so here I am today. I'm healthier now than I've ever been before. I work out consistently. I eat pretty clean. And in the process, though, I haven't totally. I've changed my diet, right? I don't eat a lot of white breads and a lot of sweets as much, et cetera. No fried foods. I drink a lot of water. I keep multiple bottles of water with me a day, drinking close to a gallon, if not more. I got my green smoothie that I take with me every day. All that jazz, right? But I'm thinking about myself 6 or 7 years ago. And I'm not where I will end up, right? But it is definitely a lifestyle, as you said. But I'm thinking about myself 6, 7 years ago, when I wasn't working out, I wasn't intentional about what I was eating. I thought I was, trying to be healthy by going and get my annual physical and all that stuff. But really, it became a point where something finally hit me and said, okay, you should not be this size. So if other people are watching this and they're at a place where they were like you were, where they were in that cycle where I would try to do it and then it didn't work, I fall off, I gained more weight than I lost, or they were like me where, they just ate what they wanted to eat, no thoughts about it, et cetera, et cetera. Why does this conversation matter, and what's my starting point?
I think there's something to be said about desperation. You said something the other day about change. how change is, and I may need you to say it again, but you said something to the degree of change is not change until you change.
Yeah. Don't
How did you say it?
change before you're forced to change.
Change before you're forced to change. That's right.
Yeah. And so for me, from a health standpoint, you know, and this is not a knock on my family, right? But this is just a brutal fact.
Mm-hmm.
I did not see healthy eating modeled. I did not see,
Right.
I don't know that I can name anybody in my family for the sake of one or two people who was talking about working out and fitness and, you know, portion control, right? There was no such thing
Right.
as portion control in my family. You ate until you was full and then you ate some more.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so yeah, so go ahead. I'm sorry. I just, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So for me, I really do see that on some level, desperation was involved. Like I was so desperate for change. I think that sometimes we might want to change, and I'm speaking for myself when I look back on all of the different weight loss attempts that I've had. Sometimes we can get caught up in the emotion of wanting to change, but not really be ready for change. Because when you are ready for something to change in a particular area of your life, you are going to be willing to do almost anything,
Wow.
anything, you know, reasonable, I should say. And so, as I said, I was going through all of these different crazy transitions in my life, and something needed to change. And even though it did not start with, okay, clean eating and boot camps and high intensity interval trainings and all of these different things that go along with the natural part, but I was in a place where I would say it was like that's it. I will not live another day like this. That was the moment. I will not go past today like this. Because, you know, there are some things that we get comfortable with that we should never get comfortable with, but we just allow for them. We accommodate those things, whether they be in our health or be in our finances or be in a relationship. It's like, well, that's just how it is. But I was in a moment where you talk about where was my mind. My mind was like, I will not go past this moment in the same way. So I began immediately with, as I said, with my relationship with myself, with how I talk to myself, being very affirming of myself, being very patient and compassionate with myself. That affected the way that I treated my body as well.
So
it was almost like
So queuing, hold on
yeah.
for just a second, right? So I want to paint a realistic picture for people as they listen to this. So affirming yourself doesn't mean that you weren't realistic with where you were, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? So you can affirm yourself. You could say, okay, listen, you are 120 pounds overweight. You need to get this together. And then the affirmation comes in, you can do this. You can do this.
Absolutely.
But the affirmation doesn't deny the facts or doesn't deny, you know, the reality that's there. And the affirmation, I just talked about this actually a couple of weeks ago at our church. There's a difference between conviction and condemnation. And so you're not condemning yourself. There should be some conviction that forces you to change. Would you agree?
Absolutely. So, and that means that if I'm looking at myself in the mirror at 246 pounds, I'm no longer saying, oh, you look disgusting. Look at your stomach. You know, like these type of ways that we would talk to ourselves, like, oh, you totally like, let's just, no. I would look at myself and say, I'm on my way. Like, and also acknowledging my beauty, whether I felt like I was beautiful in the moment or not. Because, you know, you can take somebody who's at a certain elite level of fitness and they may not necessarily feel like they're beautiful or anything. That doesn't matter, but meaning that I was appreciating like literally every step of the way because I knew that it was going to change.
Wow.
I knew that change was in motion. I think sometimes the anxiety and the fear and the sabotage comes in because there's like this fear that what if it doesn't change though? Yeah. What if I'm trapped right here? What if I'm stuck right here? Yeah. So there was freedom in knowing that it was going to change. It does not need to look like it's changing for it to change.
Yeah. You know,
because it's going to.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. So, you know, hearing you talk about that, there were two things when I started my journey of towards a healthier lifestyle. Again, you know, I've not arrived, right? I'm still in that process. I mean, I'm down 80 some pounds and, you know, as I said, working out consistently and I feel great. My numbers are all great and all that, you know, and so there's two things though, when I started my journey that totally changed my mindset. I was the church that I was attending at the time in Chicago. There was a gentleman there that was coming to the men's class that we would have every Saturday morning. And I just kind of flippantly said, you talk about that desperation. I kind of flippantly said, you know, this time next year, guys, I'm going to lose some weight. I'm going to have myself together because we were literally teaching a topic where it was one of those times where as the teacher, I didn't feel like I was totally modeling what I was teaching. And I'm not one of those teachers who can teach that and be disconnected and not be convicted, right? So I was convicted by it. And after class, this guy, and he may watch this, Kobe, said to me, hey man, you know what? I'll train you. If you meet me at the gym, I'll train you. And so there was two things that happened. Number one, I was under the impression that everybody that goes to the gym had already arrived. And I said that to him. And we were at the gym one day and he let me just walk around and talk to about 4 or 5 people that he knew. One person, you know, they've been on this journey for 10 years, you know, and still, and he showed me old pictures, the before, the after, if you would. Another young lady, she had been on the journey for 6 years and relapsed, if you would, you know, not in a drug kind of sense, but in the sense of, and I just kind of like, and on and on and on and on. The second thing he said to me was this. He said, you're not going to see results immediately. But if you stick with me for 6 months, he says, getting towards health is like a drug. And once you taste it, you'll never want to go back. And so that was a challenge. So then when I started getting to the place where I could run up the stairs and not be sweating or breathing hard, I was like, okay, I need to keep doing what I'm doing. So I think there is some amazing value to what you're saying. And for those that are watching this, and really, I think you're asking the question, Qing, how desperate are you? Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Because, and here's the thing, because your actions are going to reveal what your level of desperation is. And I kind of feel uncomfortable saying that you need to be desperate, but I can't think of another word to compare to what that passion has to be, that you literally put a stake in the ground and you're like, I am not going back there.
Yeah.
I cannot. You know, you reminded me of my scripture that's on my bathroom mirror where I talked about you discipline yourself like an athlete. I put that in me so much. But the second part of that scripture says, I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should, lest I fear that after I have preached to others, I myself might be disqualified. Wow. So when you say that didn't feel right about it, that's because, you know, how am I going to be talking to people about, believe God for favor, for this tuition, or I'm trusting God for in this and this other area, having great faith, in other areas of my life, in my career or whatever for other people, but then a bacon cheeseburger has power over you though. You can't say, I can't have one cookie without eating a whole row. Like, yeah. So it's like,
and society feeds that to us too, with themes even like, no one can eat just one. You're gonna end up having to eat the whole bag,
right.
or just,
Right. And that doesn't mean that I don't eat cookies anymore, or that I'm not going to eat some bacon if I want some.
Right.
But the difference now between desperation that ended up leading to liberation is that on the freedom side, I'm not compelled to do that.
Right.
So I can take it or leave it. That's how you know when you're free. It's not calling me.
Yeah.
Versus like, okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And that took some time, and I still walk through that. But again, when we're talking about applying faith to fitness and getting wisdom and asking the Holy Spirit to help you, because he's a helper, then he's helping you along the process and he's teaching you. So like, for example, the other day, because on Saturdays, I let myself do like a cheat meal or a cheat treat or something like that, or an off-plan meal is what I like to call it. And so I was thinking about getting some pizza. I ended up not getting the pizza, and here's why. Because I've learned how to think it through, whereas before I'm just trying to satisfy the craving. So I thought, like, there's a series of children's books called If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. It's like, if you give a mouse a cookie, then he's going to want some milk to go with it. And if you give him some milk, he's going to want to make a milk mustache. And it goes all along the way to the mouse is just to wreck the house. So it's like, I kind of think like that in terms of how I approach things that might be a trigger to set me back so I don't get tricked. So I'm thinking, okay, it's cheaper to buy a whole pizza and eat a slice of pizza. But if I order the pizza and eat the slice, then the pizza is going to still be in the house. Then I might want some of the pizza, and then I'm not going to like the way I feel if I do that. So I at this point, just won't get the pizza. Now, that does not mean for somebody else watching that you shouldn't get the pizza if you have been disciplining yourself and you can handle that. I'm talking about me. There are just some things that I have decided that for my life, I just can't do anymore, and I feel okay with that because I still can eat from all these other trees.
Right.
So,
yeah, so you are in tune with yourself enough to know what your limitations are physically, what your limitations are emotionally, and what your limitations are spiritually. So you find that balance.
Yeah.
I call it SQ, IQ, PQ, and EQ, where you've got the balance of those four things, and you know how to with great integrity manage all four of those quadrants of your life.
Yeah, and I don't feel like I'm restricted.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't feel like I'm right. I don't feel like, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. Because a lot of times that's, people ask questions like, well, what can I not do? It's almost, like looking for rules, like, well, can I eat this? Can I not do this? Can I do this? Should I do that? Like, no, take the deadline away and take away the list of do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
And think about it in terms of what can you do now? What does it mean to eat clean? And then get involved in, trying a clean eating way, incorporating more clean food. And that just means foods that are not as processed, things that are not in a box, a bag, a can, that type of thing.
Well, you know, our time is gone. Again, we don't have time
Wow.
to dig into it, dig into some of the other things that we could dig into. Listen, if you're watching this, I want to invite you, go check Q-Wing's website out, follow her on social media. She's not going to always give you the meal plan or the workout plans, but I promise you, when it comes to your physical health, she can give you, as she said, let me make sure I say it right, faith for fitness and wisdom for weight loss. And so here's the deal, y'all. She talked a lot about this whole notion of being desperate, right? And while you were talking, I was looking down because I wanted to look up, you know, I pulled the thesaurus up and wanted to see if there were some other words that could give us, you know, what you were saying with regards to desperation. And, you know, I don't know that I found, you know, the right one, if you would, maybe a holy boldness. But one of the other things that I saw here was, you have to get to a place where you are dissatisfied with what's happening, where you are dissatisfied with what's happening. Because when you're really dissatisfied, then you'll actually figure out, okay, how do I need to make some adjustments? And the last thing I'll say, Q-Wing, and then I'll let you close us out with a takeaway. You know, at some point, you have to start where you are, and you can't change things overnight, but in fact, you can take one step, and I think that's the process. Take one step. I am blown away when I go to the gym. How many people who say, "Man, I sure didn't feel like being in here today, but I chose to come. I sure didn't feel like being here today, but I chose to come." So showing up and taking one step is half the battle. So Q-Wing, what's one thing that you want to leave the people with today that will help resonate with them or help them along their journey physically?
I would say know that the very fact that you are watching this and you even want to engage in a weight loss journey means that there is hope there, that you are not in a hopeless situation. So the victory is already in action for you because you still dare to believe that you can overcome this. And that is a great starting point. And now what you want to do is get understanding. Start Googling things like clean eating. Go on YouTube and find workouts that you can do, or simply start with walking. Read success stories of people who have lost weight and have done it naturally. And hold on to that hope. That hope will not disappoint.
That's incredible. So listen, y'all have been watching this broadcast. This is part 2 of the message where we've been talking about the book Temporary Assignments. And today I've had Q-Wing Jones on here, as she has been in a transformation process of not just losing 100 pounds, but God only knows how much emotional baggage and weight you've lost, how much mental weight you've lost, and even spiritually, how much of a game changer in the spirit you've become. And so thank you for sharing. Thank you for being so transparent today. I want to invite you guys, go get the book. I don't talk about weight loss plans in here, but I do talk about increasing your capacity physically to be able to handle the purpose that God has for your life. So go check the book out. Go check Q-Wing out. All of our social media stuff is right there in the bottom. Make sure you follow me if you're not following me already. And I look forward to seeing you guys the next time. Peace.
You can have a goal or a desire or a plan, but it requires some work.